where do I buy property? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Simple fact is, you go across Australia and we've got properties in all the major capital cities, we've got the regional cities, and then you've got the small towns. Every Tom, Dick and Harry out there's got their own opinion. In this video, I'm just going to give you a real basic overview of how the property cycles have traditionally worked in Australia for the last 80 to 90 years, okay? There's a simple pattern that most investment cycles have followed over that period of time. Now, in the 2000s, got a little bit skew if I'll touch on that shortly, but here's how the cycles work, generally speaking, for the last 80 to 90 years in Melbourne. Number one, the first city that usually goes nuts in Australia is Sydney. Okay, Sydney starts to take off, Sydney starts to have a bit of a boom, prices start to move, investors start to flood in, and Sydney takes off. Down the track, a few years later on, Melbourne starts to go after Sydney. So you've got Sydney first, Melbourne starts second. So Melbourne does the same thing, off it goes, sentiment starts to flow, the newspapers, the media, everyone jumps on board, bang, in it all goes, okay? So it goes Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne. Brisbane generally takes off after Melbourne, so Brisbane will start to move, it'll start to go. Then it'll be followed by Perth, and then it'll be followed by Adelaide. Now, having said that, in the early 2000s, or during the 2000s when we had the big mining boom going on in Australia, it went a little bit skew out of that cycle. Basically what happened there was Western Australia and Queensland, purely because of the mining boom activity that was going on at that point in time, those states and those cities went a bit crazy, and it was a little bit out of kilter. But here we are now at 2016, we're back in cycle again because Sydney's experienced a pretty good uptake and a pretty good boom. Melbourne's going through a massive boom right now as we speak. Brisbane's already started to move and bubble up there, so it started to go. Perth's sort of sitting at the bottom of the cycle, and Adelaide will have its run as well. So again, we're back in cycle. But here's the challenge though, when you ask that question, well then where do I buy property? Well, not only do you have the capital cities, then in every state in Australia you've also got all the big regional centres. So you've got, your Geelongs, your Ballarat, your Bendigos in Victoria, you've got your Waggas and your Orange and all those areas in New South, and you've got big major cities, regional towns in most states in Australia. So how do you then you go further down beneath that, then you've got the smaller regional towns. So what you've got is Australia is a big macro market. Then inside that macro, you've got lots of mini micros. But even inside the suburbs, so for instance, if we looked at Melbourne, there are certain areas and certain suburbs inside of Melbourne that are all doing different things at the same time. So how do you dissect where to go, where to buy? And then when you do dissect that, if you got to that level, and then you've got to say, well, okay, now what type of property do I buy? Now, for most people that I see come through my business, your property is going to be dictated to by a couple of things. Number one, what's your overall plan, your overall strategy? Number two, what's your affordability and what's your comfort levels? And number three, that'll then dictate what type of property we start to shoot for them and what type of area we start to go to. So if I give you an example, if you were sort of 50, 52 to 55 and you had, 12, 13 years to go, 15 years to go before you were going to retire, it'd be really critical that you got a property now in one of those locations over here where we know that the cycle has already just started to take that little bit of an upswing. So you may or may not know, I'll do a video shortly on the property clock. So there's a property clock which it cycles and it shows us where specific towns and cities are inside the property clock. So you imagine 12 o'clock is up here at the peak of market, 6 o'clock is down here at the bottom of the market, 7 o'clock it's starting the upswing, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10, and we're moving back up towards the peak again, so then we go around the other side. So I'll explain the cycles to you later on when it comes to the property clock, but for now, you just need to understand that the Westfields of this world, or the big money players, the Stocklands and the Westfields, they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on property cycles. Where's the movement going to be? Where's the population growth going to be? Where are the new suburbs being built? Where's the new infrastructure going in? Where are the new jobs being created? Where's the supply and where's the demand? So there's a lot to it. There's a lot to invest in. It's not just a matter of going out next door and going, oh, let's just go buy a property because it looks good. Don't make that silly mistake. You need some really in-depth data around what's going on, why do it. I personally just we put a project together not long back, and now it's just been announced that there's a $5.5 billion infrastructure project now approved right beside where we're doing some investments right as we speak. So, you know, when you've got $5.5 billion worth of infrastructure going on around you, that's going to tell you a bit of a story. Things are happening, there's money being spent, there's jobs being created, there's people looking for work in those areas, there's people looking for properties, looking for rental properties, rental demand, population growth, all those sorts of things, yeah? So look, for now, just understand the basics, okay? Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide is specifically, generally, that's how it's done it for 80 or 90 years. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want more information or you want more help, just text your name, text your email address to 0439 541 704, and we'll speak to you soon and see what we can do to help you. Have a great day.